Alas, the time of skill and wit seemed to have passed away, and now, for a time at least, we shall live in the ruins of better times. For the shadow of mediocrity grows long, and its grasp is blinding. Yet in the pale light of darkened sky, we can say, even if all light has gone from this world, and though our eyes cannot see but grim death and disaster, that we remember the words of old, and until our last breaths, the hollow, near empty one that shows the winding down of spirit and body, that we have forsook not our oaths to the truce, for darkness and deceit cannot humble those who have known the light. I remember when I saw The Lord of the Rings for the first time. It was a VHS my older brother had rented out from a library. The scene was in Moria. It was completely fascinating. 9 original characters with different and unique looks wandering the lightless halls of an alien world. It was a masterpiece of build-up and action. First there was the grandeur of the halls of Moria, its countless columns, and the mystery of the place itself. Then our heroes follow Gimli into the tomb of his fellow dwarves. And we learn more about all of this by reading of an awesome-looking book. Dead fossilized bodies build up the dread of the place, and Gandalf reads chilling tale of their doom. Drums, drums, drums in the deep, and we cannot get out. They are coming. This tense dialogue serves to build up a paroxysm of pressure. Then suddenly it all goes to hell when Pepin, ever curious, causes a body to fall down a well and disrupts the Fellowship's stealth. Our heroes are confronted by progressively more and more powerful and dangerous foes. A pack of goblins, a mountain trolls, a massive horde of goblins, the very staircase on which they tread, and finally, a corrupted and evil Maya spirit, the last of the Balrogs, a creature of great size, and dark eerie flame, which Gandalf attempts to trick before it pulls him down into an abyss of darkness. It was pretty much the perfect action scene, with the perfect and careful build-up, and a scaled execution of drama, without sacrificing logic and quality of choreography. It flowed extremely well, from one set piece to another, without taking too long either. The same year, I had seen the security checkpoint scene from Matrix. Yet I would consider this scene to be more captivating, having less reliance on slow motion and other gimmicks. It would be a question of taste after all. Both scenes have good build-up, groundbreaking set pieces, put in a logical and escalating sequence. Finally, both action scenes advance the plot in interesting ways. I would say these scenes form the gold standard of good drama and action. From that point on, I was fascinated by The Lord of the Rings and its world. I read the books, tracked down the extended editions of the films, read The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, at least the parts of the book that I find readable. Being the foundation of Tolkien's Legendarium, it's more of a history book than a story. I collected the Lord of the Rings miniature that I have kept to this day. Reading and learning more about the lore is, to this day, my favorite pastime. Every reference from Lord of the Rings led to vast explorations into source material and a passionate discussion on the subject. The Legendarium and the World of Arda, from its creation to The New Shadow, Tolkien's unpublished sequel to The Lord of the Rings, is an ornate history of a fantasy world. Most everything was done with considerable care. Tolkien and his son discussed in great detail these choices and the themes that underpin them. Tolkien is inspired by the myths and history of the British Isles, yet metaphor and allegories are declined by the author, making it its own world and not a cheap knockoff of ours. From the halls where Iluvatar sits with the undying flame to Aragorn's death, most key events are known in detail. This is not Star Wars, where it is inspired by one man's vision, then written out by hundreds of authors. This is one man's history of a different world. The Legendarium is a homage to Anglo-Saxon history and Norse culture and mythology. Yet, it surpasses both by building upon them. To adapt such a work one should use a scalpel. Cutting out the fat was great skill. Not ripping out vital organs and quality meat without the ability or sought to do it properly. Yet, it is what we see here. Not a single plot point is preserved from the so-called writers. Callous disregard for the story, its pacing, and its lore. To this point, I must confess how little is put in this show. Space, time, numbers, all frames of reference are lain broken, cast asunder by unscrupulous hands. It is as if a bad summary had been adapted. Yet let it be known that not even the proper rings of power have been created, and the order in which they have been made was disregarded not to uphold any theme or any story point, but for no other reason than to rush this rump show to its shameful end. The story makes the Shadow of War cutscenes look good. They look like respectful masterpieces. It makes the bloated, rushed Hobbit look like a work created by perfect gods of pure skill and genius. The Rings of Power are rife with clumsy imitations, crafted into a parody of what once masters created.